Hello, welcome to Axiom Flux News. Today's date's the 4th of January 2015. We're going to start today with some news reports from Canada. Bok's going to be the one to lead the way. Hello, Bok.
Hey, PJ, Andy. Yeah, the first article I have today here, headline here says, scientists explain how stem cells and bad luck cause cancer. See, according to this study, it says no other environmental or inherited factors are known to be correlated in this way across tumor types. Researchers have long recognized that when cells copy themselves, they sometimes make small errors in the billions of chemical letters that make up their DNA. Many of these mistakes are inconsequential, but others can cause cells to grow out of control. This is the beginning of cancer. The odds of making a copying mistake are believed to be the same for all cells, but some kinds of cells copy themselves more often than others. These scientists hypothesized that the more frequently a type of cell made copies of itself, the greater the odds that it would develop cancer. The pair focused on stem cells because of their outsized influence in the body. Stem cells can grow into many kinds of specialized cells, so if they contain damaged DNA, those mistakes can spread rapidly. Now, just, upon reading that, this just made me think of right away about this gentleman here, Bruce Lipton, who was, I believe he was one of the first to have discovered stem cells, and he has been from a biology background in researching stem cells since 1966. So here's a quick 7 minutes, or close to 7 minutes of, just want you guys to hear what he has to say. Let's make the screen bigger. Okay.
Don't appear to be receiving any audio there, Bok.
Try it again. You're not getting any audio?
No, not getting no audio, I'm afraid.
Okay. Hang on.
My name is Bruce Lipton, and I'm a former research scientist.
There we go.
Science, cloning stem cells 40 years ago, 1967. Through research,
I don't think he's going to have it, Bok. It's not being user friendly today, I'm afraid.
Okay, well.
The Epigenetics is not wanting to be broadcasted.
Okay, that's too bad. We'll go right to his article here. So this is his reply in an interview. Okay, very quickly, I was cloning stem cells a long time ago. I mean, long time ago. A lot of people think stem cells are relatively new. I was cloning them back in 1967, 40-something years ago. What was very interesting about the experiments is that I would isolate one cell, put it in a petri dish by itself, and it would divide every 10 hours or so. After 2 weeks, I'd have thousands of cells in the petri dish. But what was important was every cell was genetically identical because it came from the same parent. Then what I did in my experiment, this is the part that blew my mind, because I was teaching in a medical school at the time, and I was teaching conventional story that genes control life. So here I am with this plate of thousands of genetically identical cells. I split them up into 3 groups and put them into 3 different petri dishes. I changed the culture medium with slightly different constituents in each of the 3 dishes. So there are 3 dishes with cells in different environments, because the culture medium is the environment for the cell. In the one dish, the cells formed bone with the culture medium that I put in them. A different culture medium in that second dish, the cells formed muscle. With the third different culture medium, the other cells formed fat cells. And this gentleman, the interviewer, says, they all came from the same stem cell? They came from the same stem cell, and they were all genetically identical. So, I mean, without further going into it, we can go back to this, recent article here, and they're just, I just had a hard time understanding how they can keep pumping this kind of nonsensical information regarding cancer. And some comments that I made to myself were, going back to this title, is it bad luck or is it bad environment? I mean, consider your body as an environment. Yes, some genes are passed down, but those genes are passed down because the host originally was a bad environment. But what he has just said is that the biology can change. It's not for life that you're given this blueprint, and you'll always have to cope with this. So that's the article I wanted to speak out about, cancer and stem cells. And that was his interview. Here's another little part where this is off his website. He says, the answer is not because of the gene programs, but because of the feedback of information from the environment. All of a sudden, the bigger thing hit me. What makes us different from each other is the presence of a set of unique identifying protein keys, receptors, compromising the keyboard on the surface of our cells. The identity keys on the cell membrane respond to environmental information. The biggest aha was this, that our identity is actually an environmental signal that is playing through the keyboard on the surface of our cells and engaging our genetic programs. You are not inside your cell. You are playing through your cell using the keyboard as an interface. You are an identity derived from the environment. And I just want to leave that at that. This is kind of, as we say, straight from the horse's mouth, not to, So, any comments on that, guys?
Yeah, it's an interesting article, that book, and we will try again with that video if you've got the patience for it afterwards. Really, what I've been noticing, I've been talking to a lot of people locally who live near me, and those who have been affected by cancer, through like deaths in the family, you try and talk to them about this sort of stuff and other stuff as well, and they don't seem to give it the attention anymore. They haven't really got the time. They don't really want to hear it. It's almost as if they've given up.
Yeah, that's the kind of like the Platonic effect, where if your beliefs do form you.
So yeah, that's interesting, Bock. I'm trying to sort of process the information that we've just put out. I mean, this is all. I mean, I don't know anything about this really, but from what you're saying, then basically the environment is what actually makes you, and that's why we're individually different, even though we may be brothers and sisters, cousins, whatever. We're uniquely different because of the environment that we were perhaps born into.
Yeah.
A bit like the stem cells with the different cultures in the different petri dishes.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm with you now. Yeah, that is definitely a wow moment.
I mean, all he did was he took identical cells, he changed the environment, and one started to grow bone, the other started to grow muscle, and the other started to grow something else. So, that was a pretty phenomenal,
Yeah. It brings me back to an article several months ago now, where they was talking about the stem cells for the blind and also the diabetes as well. And they was talking about, needing to find the twin reservoir for the stem cell, and maybe if they look into that a little bit more, there could be something good to come out of it.
Yeah, and that would make a lot of sense to why. I mean, I know family members that their parents have gone on to live quite a long life, over the 70, and yet their siblings, um, born into a certain environment at a certain time, have both suffered cancers earlier in their life, where their parents didn't have them because it was a different environment, a different time. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
the other attributing factors are, they say that, generally for a severe case of cancer where it develops into a tumor and stuff like that, they say that really this has been a gradual building process of 20 years sometimes.
Yeah.
So it takes a long time for this to get in there, and what happens is, unfortunately, we end up seeing it, we always catch it kind of in its later stages, where it's given up on the host, which is you. I mean, and especially if you've given up, then it's just going to speed the process up all the more.
Yeah, yeah.
And and given all the other facts, and part of, like when I said bad environment, this environment also includes, the foods and stuff that we're exposed to, the toxins, the various stresses, that can be emotional, from work and all kinds of stuff, and and from the person's lifestyle, outdoors, getting sunlight, it's the key is you need to balance it all. And I just want to say that we need to keep the big picture open here. Is there's lots of hope and there's lots of optimism for fighting cancer and really overcoming this thing.
Yeah, we need to hear more of these stories on people who've been fighting it and who've won the battle.
Exactly.
More of them stories need to be put out there, as well as the the opposing stories. It's interesting, Buck, if you can give that other video another try. If not, we can try and attach it to the end, or leave a link in the description part for people to see.
Yeah, you know what? I guess we'll leave a link because I closed it down.
Right. Okay, we'll do that then. For anybody who wants to view that video, we will attach a link.
And just quickly, I wanted to go over. These are the 10 foods, they say, that are the biggest, orally.
Cancer-causing?
Yes, cancer-causing orally consumed substances. So, number 1 was genetically modified organisms. Number 2 was processed meats. Number 3 was microwave popcorn, soda pop, diet foods, diet beverages, refined white flours, refined sugars, conventional apples, grapes, and other dirty fruits. And the reason for that is, I know people think an apple a day and all that's very good. I myself am a big fan of grape juice, and I love strawberries. But unfortunately, when they're not certified organic, especially with apple trees and grapes, they use some of the highest concentrations of pesticides because let's face it, everybody loves apples, grapes, and strawberries, and that includes all of nature. So they have to use extra pesticides to get that apple all perfect and beautiful to you. And number 9 was farmed salmon. And the reason they use salmon in this article is because salmon is often talked about as being an excellent source of omega-3 and all sorts of other benefits, but farmed salmon is not the same to be confused with wild salmon. And 10 was the hydrogenated oils. And these are the types of, the cooking oils you use such as your vegetable oils and stuff like that. Our body doesn't break those down, unfortunately. So, these are other contributing factors to your environment. So I just wanted to quickly throw that in on the end of this.
Yes, it's interesting there, but where it says processed meats. Now, would that not mean processed foods? Why is it just
Well,
tailor-made for
processed
meats?
meats, especially because they use extra ingredients in there to keep it preserved. Um, it's not only the chemical preservatives; they have higher levels of sodium. They use extra salt and stuff, nitrates, and that they say, and the other problem is that they are not grass-fed sources of meat. So it's a combination of the GMOs, pesticides, and the other factor of the preservatives and the high
Right.
sodium. So now you've got 4 contributing factors.
Yeah, I mean, it's even the labeling these days. We did covered an article a while back, not on Flux News, but it was to do with Iceland Foods and some logos that they was chucking out there, and we had a little investigation into that ourselves, and we came up with the fact that you cannot really confirm or really believe anything people say these days, because if you trace it back, you look into things, you'll find the old GMO cropping up now and again, one place or another.
I think it's going to be a battle, but I think the good here will overcome in the end, because the good news is with the GMOs is that they're not designed to survive, because as every generation goes, they are infertile, and that's another contributing factor to infertility in young women, is they're saying GMO foods. So, Andy, want to say anything about that?
Just before Andy, steps
Yeah.
up. So these lists that you've just read out, Bock, are these the only things then for the listeners? Are these the only things that are going to cause cancer, or avoiding them?
No, these are
Avoiding
the
this
top.
list?
These are the top 10. I have another one here. These were the top 20, and interesting enough, microwave popcorn. You'll find
Right.
popcorn is right up there.
Yeah.
If you do a general search on this, you'll see that these generally 10 or 20 different types of foods are really bad. And I tell you, I mean, before you even get cancer, you'll notice it. You're going to feel lethargic. You're going to be getting like colds and stuff like that. You're going to be sick more often. Your immune system just can't keep take a beating like this.
What was the saying from Dr. Colwell? Did he say between 3 to 5 years of continual eating this sort of stuff would guarantee to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard other reports saying that if you consume more than 3 hot dogs a week, that you are increasing your chances dramatically after a year of all kinds of things. It wasn't just cancer; it was other things too.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's all, Bob. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Andy.
Just touching on a couple of the things there, like PJ was saying, we did do a little thing with a certain company, and they couldn't deny the fact that they'd told a little porky, but they didn't want to admit to it. And basically, all the meat products that they have in their chain, they couldn't disprove they couldn't prove that all the animal feed fed on the meat products was GMO. So but they were putting a disclaimer out on the contrary that they could. But there you go, they get fed.
Yeah, we do have the actual email up on the website for people who are interested in having a look at that.
Yeah, and another important thing about them 10 the top 10, I'll probably bring the top 10 or top 10, any artificial sweeteners.
Yes.
A lot of the food stuff in your everyday supermarkets that most people have to use. Let's put it right, have to use. They seem to have a choice to try and go for local produce, local organic products. Sorry. So that's worth mentioning, and them artificial sweeteners go across the board, and it's actually surprising what they're in. They're pretty much in almost everything. So that's something people should look up on. And but very good articles, book, and very informative.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Yeah, it's just like if you're an investor and you're buying a car or some stocks or something, like you really can't just depend on your on advice from others or your advisor. You really do have to do your own research these days. And when it comes to food, like you better get with the program and start reading these labels and understanding what these things are, because the laws are not about to be amended fast enough for our health to keep up with.
Yeah. I'd just like to add one thing though, Bock. People out there, these skeptics out there are going to probably got in their mind thinking, well, if we're not going to accept these things on this list, then are you suggesting that people should starve to death?
Yeah.
These alternatives out there, and it's quite important more than ever now
Well,
for people to.
if you're going to the movies once a week, okay, once a week, one movie, and you buy some movie theater popcorn, I think you'll live. But if I were you, I'd do some hardcore, you know, uh, health kind of workouts and stuff after that, and treat your body well for the next few days.
Yeah.
Go on a detox and stuff like that. It's important to detox. I think that's the best thing anyone can do, healthy or sick, is do a full body detox. Learn what proper, health detox is these days, because it's like getting an oil change for your car. Like, well, why don't most people treat their cars better than their bodies? So
Yeah, does it start in the colon? Is that the research that's
yeah.
been done?
It was interesting. I was reading this article earlier, and they're saying this is something they used to do even in the 60s, where they used to do coffee enemas, and they say that the antioxidants inside the coffee, they work like at a phenomenal rate um, when used this way, versus just like drinking coffee orally every day. We're only getting like 9 or whatever percent of it is, but they used to use coffee enemas, and they say it's an extremely effective. It's been an extremely effective measure against colon cancer.
All right.
Yeah,
Coffee. I've heard of flaxseed oil. I've not heard the coffee one.
yeah. This is organic coffee, mind you. This,
Right. Okay.
yeah. So to leave
So
the,
it's
hey,
not your
what's that?
Nescafe then. It's not your Nescafe.
Yeah, no, it's not your instant coffee. To go on to brighter things here, I found a good story here because of something I said here a few days ago. I was talking about how young children are so resilient, and we're often pampering them, and they just, we're not really giving them enough credit for what the human body is at it, with a good immune system and everything. So apparently this plane crashed, and the sole survivor was a 7-year-old child. And I'll read you the article here. For a young girl to be able to walk away from a plane crash that killed everyone else on board, and this was including her parents and her brothers and sisters, and then make her way through rough, densely wooded terrain at night to find help, is being called an incredible miracle. Medical experts say the 7-year-old was likely driven by adrenaline. This is what we call the fight or flight response, said ABC News senior medical contributor Dr. Jennifer Ashton. That adrenaline, that hormone, clearly there's an element of emotional shock as well as physical shock. But if she's being able to survive the initial impact without head injury, and then she's just talking about 5 to 15-minute walk through the dark in a very scary situation, is incredible. Without getting into too much detail, there was her parents. I just want to say, good on her parents, because obviously, they did something right in their upbringing for, that child to remain headstrong. And out of this tragedy, I just wanted to point that out, that this there's a young person, you know, with some bravery and some proper cognition.
Yeah.
You know,
It goes back to what you were.
I wouldn't just label this simply as a miracle. You know, credit needs to be pointed out to where it's deserved here. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead, PJ.
definitely. Now, I was just going to say it's what you know, it adds to what you were speaking of a couple of days ago when you were saying, you know, a young child can fall out of a three-story window and, you know, pick themselves up and survive.
And survive, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes without broken bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually caught a little bit of that story. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, and it's amazing, isn't it? And yeah, I came to sort of similar conclusions as yourself, but that the parents must have installed, you know, some type of survival type morals, but not
Yeah.
obviously not specifically for this, because I wouldn't have thought they'd have seen this scenario coming out and are actually having to play out for real. But yeah, I think there was some good basic morals installed there. So gives you hope, doesn't it? So very good.
Yeah. Pretty incredible. You know, no flashlight, nothing. I mean, even myself, someone who likes to go to the woods and stuff, you know, after a traumatic event like that, to be walking alone in the dark, that's reason to panic for anybody. So
I
yeah,
think
kudos on her and her parents.
I think I would have struggled at 50 odd. Uh, so you know, 7-year-old is an amazing story, and a happy kind of ending to a tragedy. So
Yeah.
okay.
Well, that's it for me, guys.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Buck. Interesting articles you've brought for us today. What about you, Stavo? What's your flux?
Ah, right, okay. Oh, I wasn't quite. Hang on, we got stuck now. Wait a minute. What's going on here? Everything's stuck up, boys. 1 minute.
Are you tab tangled, Andy?
I'm a bit tangled up. Yes, great. I wasn't quite. I should have been ready, as usual. I'm not ready. Hopefully the screens come up. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. It's all good, all good.
Okay. It's this article's from the BS Broadcasting Corporation. It's about the latest bushfires that are sweeping southern Australia, and what's happening and what's being reported on it. Basically, bushfires in Victoria and South Australia threaten homes. One resident described the sound of the bushfires like the roar of a jet engine. Firefighters are battling out-of-control bushfires threatening homes in South Australia and Victoria. Police have declared a major emergency and told residents that their lives are at risk. South Australia's fire chief said the blazes in the Adelaide Hills, northeast of Adelaide City, were the worst since the Ash Wednesday bushfires in 1983. Those fires left 75 people dead and caused devastation across parts of Victoria and South Australia. At the moment, we have a fire watch which is extremely dangerous and it is burning under extremely adverse conditions. South Australia Fire Chief Greg Nettleton was quoted as saying, right at this moment, residents in Adelaide Hills are being confronted by a fire which it hasn't been seen in the hills since the 1983 bushfires of Ash Wednesday, Mr. Nettleton said. Crews have also been fighting bushfires in Victoria, but all warnings have now been downgraded as a cold front moves into the area. Hopefully tomorrow and the next few days, the fire danger will ease as this cold front passes through Victoria, a spokesman from the area's fire authority told ABC News. Incredibly scary. So far, about 5 homes have been confirmed destroyed, but authorities said dozens more were feared lost. South Australia Premier Jay Weatherill urged residents in the areas at the risk to leave immediately or prepare to stay and defend their homes. If you've decided to stay, the fire could become incredibly scary and it could make you change your mind and leave. It could be a catastrophic decision to leave late. There's some pictures there. But, you know, saddening it really, people's homes. I mean, when that fire gets going there, it gets going. But anyway, it goes on to say, so far these are the biggest bushfires of the Australian summer, reports the BBC John Donaldson in Sydney. Australia faces such fires every year, but environmentalists say global warming is making their occurrence more frequently. I'm going to call this on this.
Bullshit alert. Bullshit alert.
That's my bullshit alert thing. Because, anyway, I'll just go on and finish the article. The Australian Bureau of Meteorology says the country experienced its hottest year on record in 2013. The 1983 disaster killed more than 70 people in South Australia and Victoria and destroyed thousands of homes and buildings. In 2009, the devastating Black Saturday wildfires killed 173 people and destroyed more than 2,000 homes. Now, the reason why I say bullshit is this article's from Mail Online. It's a couple of years old, but if we look here, I've got a graph here. Now this graph, before I get to it, it says global warming stopped 16 years ago, reveals Met Office report quietly released, and here is the chart to prove it. That's 1997. It's the peak of the global warming right there. And apart from the tiny little one peak here, you can see that at best it's flatlined. And there are other graphs that say actually temperatures have decreased. So that's the last 16 years. So you get the BBC News saying environmentalists say, well, global warming's making their occurrence more frequently. Then they've got to chuck that in because that's the mainstream's propaganda put in from higher places, so they just report on what they're told by you know who to keep peddling this global warming, which most scientists now from NASA, from wherever around the world, are saying that the global warming has finished. We are now entering something else. But it certainly isn't global warming. All data points that it's pretty much over. So I can't forgive the BBC for keep towing the line, and it's total bullshit. Moving on, to sort of give you an idea what really is going to happen. This is just a report from some earthquakes in California last night. 4.2 earthquake strikes near Castaic following earlier 3.0 quake. USGS, United States Geo, whatever it is. They're the top people anyway. I'll get to them in a minute. But, you know, without playing the video on it, it was quite, it shook a lot of places actually. There was quite a few good reports about people shaking stuff off shelves and that, so it was very noticeable, even though it was only measured at 4.3 or whatever. The reason why I brought this up again, because I want to bring up a little graph here, okay? And now we get to the US, which is the US Geological Survey National Earthquake Information Center. This site here is called D-Linquist. I'm just giving you, you know, credible to sort of give you the facts that this is sort of reasonably credible information. This is DL Research, see DL Linquist. So it comes, this chart does actually come from the US Geological Survey National Earthquake Information Center. So that gives it good credence, you know. So basically, or good credibility. So what's happening here? This is the seismic activities on a chart. It only goes up to 2006. I had to pay for the one that goes up here, so I can't show you it, and I'm flat broke. So that's my excuse anyway. But if you looked at on that other chart, the saying about global warming finished around 1997. Well, give or take a couple of years, it doesn't really matter because you've got if you get the other graph, it's like a hockey stick up here. this is the seismic activity in earthquakes since around the middle to late 90s. Right, okay, this concurs with what really is going on, and it's not global warming, it's the actual opposite from what I can tell, because this proves that from about here we've entered what they call a global cooling period, and you can check the information as regards El Nino and La Nina events that a lot of weather data is pointing out that we're entering now. But all that actually comes from the solar cycles, which a lot of scientists are now coming on board and actually holding their hands up and saying, look, we just said what we were told, and we know why they've done that, and they'll have to struggle with that with their consciousness in the future. But basically what's happened is during colder periods, now they all say there's an increased activity with seismic and volcanic. It all comes from a global cooling period. And this chart tells me, and it goes with also the other charts I touched on the other night about sunspots and the diminishing solar cycle that I did show. If you want to find out more about that, go back about 2 or 3 Flux newses, Axiom Flux newses, and you'll see that. I will follow up with this later on with a little video to explain it a bit more. But basically all I'm saying is we're seeing the signs, even though, I mean, the earthquake is just because it was breaking news last night and I've used it as a link, but they are on the increase, and it all points to a global cooling. So you've all been hoodwinked as far as I'm concerned with this global warming. Everybody has, and it obviously was there to serve a geopolitical agenda of carbon taxes, etc., etc. I think everybody's getting to understand that. But even so, they're still trying to bang a gong of a global warming, and that's why I brought up the BBC thing about the article about the bushfires in Australia, which actually during global cooling, this will actually increase as well, believe it or not. So, and there's evidence which I'll put up later on in the video. We'll do a proper separate video for the whole global cooling. I think it needs to get out there. There's a few people putting it out there now, and I think it just needs to be put out there a bit more. And there we go. So basically, I'll pop it back onto here. There we go. That's about it from me, PJ and Buck.
No, that's fascinating stuff, and I must say, and I was, we was discussing this earlier on today before we, before we came on live, and you did actually find or produce some sort of material. I don't know if you really want to cover it yet, or if you're going to cover it in the later video, to do with a certain somebody.
A certain somebody.
A certain somebody. Yes.
Can you give me a clue? Because I think we talked about a lot of somebodies earlier on.
Would the word iron mean anything to you?
Ah, yes, of course. Well, I mean, I think that might be better for a separate evening. But I mean, just very briefly to touch on the person, should we say, who actually started the whole CO2 scare and global warming was a certain Prime Minister called Margaret Thatcher. But to give you the full exposure of that would probably eat into the Flux News time tonight. So maybe another time. But yeah, just and there's plenty of evidence to prove that the Iron Lady was the person who thought it all up and brought it into where it was up to, as far as I'm concerned, 1997. But yeah, the whole thing was devised and thought up by the Iron Lady herself. So.
Yeah, there's two things that catch my attention there, and obviously we talked about this before. Was this global warming kind of thing ended way back, and And this should be obvious to people. Like, we haven't had as hot summers as we had there for during that stretch, and it should be changed to climate change, because this is a cyclical event, as you talked about before. And the other thing where these people are attributing pollution to the climate change, when they're two different things. Like, all our pollution and all this kind of our carbon blueprint here, that's affecting our atmosphere. So in our atmosphere and weather are two different things. And I think I myself was confused here, and that's how people get misguided, I think. And I've just come to that realization where, see, that's how they're probably all confused about this thing themselves. But I understood it all as soon as I found out, about the solar cycle and the cyclical changes, and there's a history of this planet that we don't know. And if we could go back, several hundred or thousand years, we would know that the climate changes are a natural occurrence.
Yeah, I think the only argument they put forward, which has pretty much been debunked, is that the CO2 emissions have increased, even though we've entered 16 years of the early part of global cooling, and that's because it's massive. It's released by the sea, and it can actually lag by about 100 years. So CO2, you could be in a mini ice age or something like that, where the global temperatures would drop, like say they did in the Maunder minimum period of the 1660 to 1700 period. But the CO2 could be still off the scale, but it proves that the CO2 and global warming, it's a total fallacy. The hockey stick is the CO2, really. Nobody's going to deny that. But then, if you understand, like these scientists that are bringing out the argument for global cooling, and also the other scientists, is that they both agree that CO2 carries on. There's a delay effect for up to 100 years, where the CO2
it's kind of like, well, hey, listen, don't complain about the weather, complain about the air quality. You missed the picture. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, to be perfectly honest, Bob, I mean, there was no excuse to use the energy wastefully. Sorry, did you get any of that by any chance?
No, I think you dropped out, Andy.
Well, actually, somebody muted my microphone. How did that happen?
Yeah, we're having a few technical difficulties tonight. And on that note, Andy, I'd like to just mention for the listeners of Flux News that we are going to be upgrading some setup, and systems will be improving in the next few days, so we do hope to get these problems solved.
Okay.
If you stop sharing your screen, Andy, that might lift a bit of pressure.
Okay. I can't even see it now. It's all
no worries. Can you see my screen?
I can see yours now. You stole it. That's good. That's good enough.
All right, no worries. Well, if you're finished, I'll move on when you're ready, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, guys. I just want to bring you a few articles from today and yesterday. Fears for 8 as vessel overturns off Scotland. Worryingly, there has been no sign of the crew of the Surneford, which was spotted by a passing ferry on Saturday afternoon. A major search for the missing crew of an overturned cargo ship has been suspended for a second day. 2 helicopters, 4 lifeboats and 5 Coast Guard rescue teams have been looking for the 8 people who were on the Cypriot registered Surneford. A spokeswoman for the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency said every effort was being made to find them. The Marine Accident Investigation Board has also deployed a team to investigate. So just going over recently the overturned cargo ship on the north of Scotland there. Interestingly, that they've also suspended for a second day, just like they did with the Air Asia, but not going to be connecting those two articles tonight. So moving on to another article, I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. My second article today would be this one. Salvage mission after car carrier runs aground. So this is another one. Experts are working out how to free the 51,000-ton cargo ship that is stuck on a sandbank in the Solent and listing at 45 degrees. There's an image there you can see of the car carrier. Bit of information attached with it says salvage experts assessing how to refloat a car carrier after it ran aground on one of the country's most busy shipping lanes. Overnight, 25 crew members were rescued by a helicopter and lifeboats from the cargo ship, which was heading towards Germany, and became grounded on a sandbank near the Isle of Wight. So this ship, the Ho Osaka, I think I've pronounced that correctly, maybe not, is listing at 45 degrees, and there are fears that changes in tide level might destabilize it further. It was hoped that this morning's high tide would right the ship, but that did not happen, and the 180-meter vessel remained stranded on Bramble Bank in the Solent between Southampton and Cowes. The stricken carrier has become a tourist attraction, with Hampshire police reporting that car parks along the coast were filling up with people wishing to view it. It is not yet clear how the 51,000-ton Singapore-registered ship, which is capable of carrying thousands of vehicles, got into difficulty in an area notorious for its shallow waters. Don't really need to go into that article any further more, just show you a few more images there. So a distance image. Location of where this event is taking place. In November 2008, the Cunard liner Queen Elizabeth II, with 1,700 passengers on board, ran aground to a rising tide after 4 tugs pulled it clear. So not a very good weekend for the cruise carriers, but moving on to my next article. At least 35 vehicles involved in crash during heavy snow. This, I believe, happened on Saturday, yesterday. More than 35 vehicles have been involved in a huge pile-up on the 193 in New Hampshire. Police blamed the crash on fast-moving snow, causing whiteout conditions. It's just a video attached to this article here. There's not much write-up attached, and with the current smoothness of tonight's broadcast, I daren't really press play. So moving on, you can find these articles on Sky News, the old Sky News there. And my final one, which is my best article for tonight, I think. You might find this one interesting. Going slightly off topic from the disasters. I do apologise for bringing you so many disasters over the period of 8 or 9 days, but hopefully this one should make up for it. This is the year ahead in space and what's next. 2015 is the year of the dwarf planets, an artist's concept showing the size of the best known dwarf planets compared to Earth and its moon. Eris is left centre, Ceres is a small body to its right, and Pluto and its moon Charon are at the bottom. In 2014, the world looked on eagerly as a probe landed on a comet for the first time, as a test flight brought humans one step closer to Mars. And as astronauts tweeted home striking images from space, giving those left behind on Earth the sense that they were along for the ride, and the coming year has plenty more in store. Just going further into this article here, it says 2015 is going to be a very exciting year, particularly for the public and space exploration, says Bruce Betts, Director of Science and Technology for the Planetary Society. Here are some of the highlights, by no means a comprehensive list, to look forward to in this year 2015. So it has been dubbed the Year of Dwarf Planets. You can also subscribe to a Newsweek and get some more information, but following on, it says 2015 will be the year for dwarf planets. NASA's New Horizons mission is en route for a flyby of Pluto. The once planet ousted from the category in 2006, and NASA's Dawn mission is scheduled to go into orbit around Ceres in March of this year. Both Pluto and Ceres are considered dwarf planets, which are round and orbit the Sun like the 8 major planets, but are much smaller and have not cleared its orbital path of other objects. They're going to worlds the likes of which we've never seen before. The senior editor of the Planetary Society says, every asteroid we've seen thus far has looked like a lumpy potato. Ceres is a round world. It's something in between rocky planets like Mars and Earth and the icy outer planets. It is also the largest object in the asteroid belt. The New Horizons mission will be approaching its target during the first half of 2015 and is set to zoom past Pluto on July the 14th. Throughout the next several months, the spacecraft will be sending back images, and every week the images will be dramatically better than the weeks before. Everybody loves Pluto. Says physics, we're finally going to get a good look at Pluto, the last of the 9 planets we grew up with. 7 mission on Mars. It says during 2015 there will be 7 active spacecrafts on Mars, including missions from NASA, the European Space Agency, and India, which also made history in September of last year when it became the first country to successfully enter the red planet's orbit on its maiden voyage. Let's leave you with some more images here. Image area of the surface of Mars. And it goes into the Rosetta and the Philae comet landing, as you can see there. And then the article continues into humans in space. The goal of their year-long expedition aboard the orbiting laboratory is to understand better how the human body reacts and adapts to the harsh environment of space. So, disregarding how the human body reacts and adapts to the harsh environment on Earth, these guys are going to take it a step further and find out what it's like to live in space. Don't know if any of you would like to comment on the article so far, guys.
Just touching on the earlier articles, and you was sort of kind of apologising for reporting on all these disasters that are going on. All I can say is get used to it, I think, especially the snow. Just sort of saying what I've said before, and not wanting to repeat myself, but I think that's a sign of the times. So, as regards the last article, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing some really fantastic HD quality pictures of Pluto. Unlike I just hope they're nothing like what the Hubble shot. The only shot that's been taken, well, the closest shot from Hubble of Pluto, which is just basically a fuzzy blob. So really keeping fingers crossed and hoping that there's going to be some fantastic HD quality pictures of Pluto and its moons. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for that. PJ?
Yeah, me too. Be interesting to see what they do manage to send back. I hope it's not a failure, no, a failed project. I think when they actually sent the probe off there, they kept it, as dormant as possible to preserve all the energy it had. So many, I think it said 3 billion miles away, something like that. It's covered a journey of. I don't know if I actually covered that in the article, but yeah, interesting stuff. What do you think, Buck?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing some of these pictures as Andy was describing. It'd be nice to to put a visual to this stuff out there.
Yeah, well, this is the step to the horizon where we can get out of the Kuiper belt, Andy. Is that correct?
Well, I think under the present technology of space travel, I think it's going to be quite difficult. But certainly for man missions. But I think yeah, Mars is not out of the question under the current technology. It does mean quite a long stint in space, and like you say, there perhaps just seeing what's going to happen with astronauts, spending longer times on the space station, etc., to check this all out. I guess really, it's going to take a quantum leap in technology to go any further, though.
Yeah, it may possibly do. What's your thoughts on the Moon project? I don't know if it was rumours that they was actually going to bring back some sort of Moon project. Is that hearsay, Andy? Anybody? You heard anything on that?
I'll pass that over to Bob, unless.
I think China's doing something.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a rover and another landing craft on the moon as we speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a little bit about that, but of course they've conveniently switched off the pictures to the public, or whatever pictures they were going to release, and getting on with whatever I guess their real mission is on Moon. But yeah, there is a lot starting to pick up again. It is encouraging to see the space projects, quite a few in practice, because it's been a long time quiet, isn't it, Buck?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see other countries now getting involved, especially India. I think they're doing pretty well with their efforts. Some people may disagree. They may think that India is not the appropriate country to be doing this sort of stuff, but that's an open matter, I guess.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see that maybe if they conquer Mars, that perhaps the first takeaway meal you can get on Mars will be an Indian takeaway.
Yeah, sure, great stuff. So if there's anything else, guys, what you'd like to cover while I'm still online, then let me know. Any articles that you'd like to talk about, Bog?
No, I'm all good here.
Andy?
No, sorry about that. That wasn't a very good job.
No worries. Okay, guys, so we'll call it an end here, and we will be back tomorrow with some more Axiom Flux news, so please do join us again, and until then, we'll say goodbye.